Hello there, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Or good afternoon,
Good
depending
after.
upon where you are.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is 1 o'clock here on the East Coast. Hopefully, everybody down in this area that got snow is doing all right. Hopefully, you're safe at home, not having to go out to work. How you doing, Josh? It's been a week.
It has been. It's been an interesting week, Trying
Has it?
to trying to balance school and work has been kind of a lot. Plus I've been uh probably trying to do too much on the weekends, so I'm
Don't we
trying to
all?
scale back. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's funny how you're supposed to, you have a day of rest supposedly on Sunday. If we're going to go back to biblical things here, day of
Hallelujah.
rest, and
Yeah.
most people don't. There's no resting because
Right?
you work if you work a regular job during the week. Normally, you don't have time to do anything during the week, and you have to save it all for the weekend. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, and then when you got school on top of it, it's
yeah,
like
no, that's just not.
not a whole lot of not a whole lot of time for anything else, man. It just
No,
feels like
no, it
burning the
doesn't.
candle at both ends.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Have to take that little metal tab off the bottom of it that holds the wick so you can get to the wick.
Yeah.
It's
And you're
that.
doing it on purpose. It's like
It's the worst.
you're like and the whole time you're thinking, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
I shouldn't.
So
I really
yeah.
shouldn't. I should have stopped at the 10th drink. But you know
Yeah.
what? Hey, let's go have another.
Yeah.
Why not? We'll just
And
stay
and
up till.
once you're at that 10th drink anyways, you're like, fuck it. Like I don't know, like
I'm already at 10.
yeah.
What's one more?
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Like,
It's all downhill from here. All right. Let's see. Left off last week, finishing up the military part of the Section 8. I know let me get switched over to that. Okay. Yeah, we did. Let's see what we had here. Yeah, and the militia. We were talking about the National Guard
mhm.
organizing the militia right there. I think we got that pretty well covered. I don't think that there was. I think the conservative, the libertarian, and all those different constitutions. I don't think that there was anything that was new, right?
No, I think we got through it. Yeah, we got to a good stopping point.
Yeah. I get
Where-
down to where we were in all these. Boop, 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 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I think we have two more. Well, in most of them, in the real in the current Constitution, we have two left. Um, and one of them, I believe, is a pretty straightforward one. I don't know that we're really going to change anything there. And that is District of Columbia. Now, well, I don't think it's District of Columbia. I think it's just in yeah, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may by session of a particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. So that's the District of Columbia. if I'm not mistaken, right?
But I believe you are correct, sir. Unless I'm way off base here.
10 square miles, seat of the government, and to erect all kinds of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, which is really interesting. They list forts, magazines, arsenals, and dockyards, right? And then other needful buildings. I don't know that there's too many forts, magazines, or arsenals in the District of Columbia. I mean, there might be
Uh,
some secret stuff there, but I don't believe there's too much in the district.
I don't think so. Not within that 10 square miles.
Yeah, but that's what they list in here. So I'm gonna have, I'm just gonna wager that the conservative, libertarian, and progressive Constitution doesn't have much of a change to that.
I don't think I'm gonna take that bet.
Um, okay, wait a second. Yeah, we got so, and we're gonna have to look at this. The conservative Constitution, like we're on Section 8. When they redid the conservative Constitution, they did all kinds of things. Like they made you know,
They made like
Section
section
8,
9, 10, and 11, didn't they?
9, 10, yeah, 10, and then 11 is actually Congress shall have the power. So we're gonna have to look at that. But okay, so they did. Okay, here it is. But I think that there's some extra stuff in here. Yeah. Okay. So the conservative Constitution, that is the last thing we left off on. And then, all right, I think we need to make this bigger so people can see. We left off on the providing and organizing for the militia. The conservative Constitution then adds three more things in there, and then has to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district. And that's the one. And I think there is some. Yeah, they do change some of the wording in here. So let's look at the libertarian one. Exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such non-residential district. Okay, so they changed it as well, the libertarian, and I think, yeah. So this is what they did. Instead of doing the 10 square miles and the government having rule over residential, right?
Yeah.
Like creating that, so you have essentially you have no
They gave the
representation.
District of Columbia back to Maryland.
Well, to an extent, as made by session of particular states, and they accept that become the seat of the parts of the existing District of Columbia that do not house the federal government or other federal land shall revert to Maryland and exercise like authority over all places purchased. So essentially, what they did, if it's not a federal building, why is the federal government in charge of it? Why are
Yeah.
you have taxation without representation?
Right. Yeah, which
So,
I agree with that. I mean, that's been an argument for a long time where they've been talking about like giving, uh, you know, Washington D.C. Like a seat in the House of Representatives, and um,
which
you know,
they don't need to if it was all
if
government
they're part
buildings,
of
if there was no constituents there,
Maryland. Yeah, yeah,
which
and
makes sense.
I think that's reasonable. I actually kind of like that because that solves the argument, um, in a
Exactly.
in kind of a neat way.
And then the progressive stays the same.
What? What a surprise!
Yeah.
Yeah, so not like them.
It's the funny thing is as we look at the conservative, libertarian, and progressive constitutions, the one that seems to have the least amount of changes is the progressive.
Yeah, I because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I keep going back to this idea that it's like, well, if we keep it vague and the more vague and ambiguous that we make things, the more room we have to play, and you know, in shaping laws how we want.
I,
And maybe for the better, but maybe not.
I don't know. I think that there's from a you see you kind of see consistency. The conservative constitution, and this is the really interesting part. They you always hear the conservative constitution wants smaller government, wants less rule, wants you know the people to be more free to do what they want, and they want that. But as you what they want to do is they want to put more guardrails and create more rules for government, right?
Right.
And which isn't the normal way you would look at it from that perspective. You would say because what they want to do is they're trying to prevent government overreach. So they need to put
Yeah.
more guardrails. They need to put more. Hey, you got to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
You can't do all this extra stuff. Libertarian is more. Hey, just let the people be the people, and you do what you need to do for all of us. I mean, and that
Hmm.
was sort of hey, if you're going to do it for you can't single out one type of person. It has to be for everybody. It has to be an you know equal whatever for all the people. And then the progressive constitution is kind of like just be more inclusive. Just
Yeah.
keep it the way it is. Just don't don't keep people out, kind of sort of.
Yeah.
And it's
But by
really
that
interesting.
token, then there's this I feel like there's this unspoken thing, or maybe it's not unspoken, that, well, it didn't say we couldn't do this, so you know
Yeah.
maybe we could, or maybe we should, you know because if we're going to keep it inclusive, let's
Yeah.
we can add this stuff in to include these people with oftentimes what seems like uh, little thought for the unintended consequences of what that ends up doing.
And that's the interesting part about it is trying to trying to understand the differences between the mentality shift between the conservative libertarian and progressive sort of movements. And as you look at it now, we're in our government we're kind of split really into two, being the Democrats and the Republicans. And I believe there's a reason why you don't have a Republican constitution, a Democrat constitution, and a libertarian constitution. It's a conservative and progressive, because Republicans and Democrats, I don't think that they are necessarily conservative or progressive.
Yeah, I
I
don't think so
I
either.
think that they have become a mash of a lot of different things. So I like the fact that they made it a conservative constitution based on constitutional conservatism, and then progressive based on progressive
Yeah.
constitutionalism. So that was I do like that they did that because it makes sense. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that, because everything Republican and Democrat these days seems to boil down to authoritarianism, in
yeah,
some form or fashion. It just depends on the it
yeah.
depends on
Somebody's
the
going to tell you
issue.
what to do, but what you're going to do depends on who it is.
Yeah, and depends on who's in power.
Yeah. Yep.
Like we don't care. We're not going to tell you what to do about this stuff, but we're definitely going to tell you what to do about this stuff over here, because this is
Exactly.
what's important to us.
Correct. Correct. Yep. Yeah. No, it's a little frustrating. So
Yeah.
so I like the libertarian part in here. I like this part, reverting back to Maryland, that are not owned by that do not house federal government or other federal land shall revert to Maryland. I do like that.
Yeah.
Let's
That
get
was
let's get
that
rid
was
of all
conservative.
the And because they already gave back Virginia. District of
I believe
Columbia
it.
already gave back Virginia. I
Yeah.
mean, they had both, but
Yeah. I believe it's
it's
pronounced Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
So the District of Columbia, if you want to see here, is this that that square there? Well,
Where'd it
yeah, it
go?
does go the whole way down, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah. So it's that square, and it's only on the Maryland side, the Potomac. They gave back the Virginia side. I don't believe it was that much, but they gave that part back. That
Yeah. But it's that. Yeah. But it's definitely not 10 square miles. Yeah. Just by looking at it, you can kind of see.
Oh, well, see, the thing was, is it originally was 10 square miles. It was
Yeah.
sort of like
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And then they gave Virginia back, like Arlington and
yeah. They gave,
uh,
because I want to say it went back, was like Alexandria all the way up to
yeah.
the Potomac or I mean, up to here somewhere north of Falls Church. So, but yeah, they gave all that back. So, yeah. And I think, I mean, in my opinion, yeah, if the federal government doesn't need to be it shouldn't be running neighborhoods. It shouldn't be
Right.
legislating over these particular people in this particular area.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Agreed.
understand like there's if it was all government land and there was no people housed on it except for government employees or military installations or something like that, yeah, I could see that. But I mean, the fact that most of this is housing and yeah, no, I don't.
Right. Yeah. And most of it's residential area
Hmm.
or even commercial, some of it.
Yeah,
Or I don't know if there's any industrial area. Well, yeah, there is because there's
yeah,
some
there
legal
is.
yard.
There, I mean, you have a lot of. Well, I mean, the yards. They don't. I don't think there's as much industrial as there was, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely. I mean, you have Costco over here. I mean, come on.
Yeah. That shouldn't be under the purview of the federal government. I agree.
So
They got better shit to do.
exactly. So I would definitely say that we would add that. Outside of that, I don't know that there's really. So let's look at the conservative one, and this is they added stuff in here. They changed some word to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, which is the original exercise exclusive legislation in all cases over such district, not exceeding 10 square miles, as may by session of particular states in the accepted Congress become the seat of government of the United States. Here you go. And this is what they added. But all residents in such district shall be considered for purposes of voting, apportionment, and representation in federal elections as residents of the particular states from which the territory in which they reside was ceded. Okay, so now that's interesting. So is it better to give it back to the state that it was that it was from, or to just say, "Hey, you're in the district, but you still count towards the state that you're from for voting purposes and representation." I
Well, I
don't know
guess
that I
I
like
could see.
that
Yeah.
because if you do that, so you're getting those people their voting rights, their representation, and everything to the states, but the states don't have legislative capability in that area. It says to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature and state in which the same shall be for the erection of military national parks and other federal enclaves. So you're still giving the federal government.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Well, not only that, but it's like, okay, yeah, you're represented by the state, but the federal government still has power to,
Do whatever they want,
yeah,
essentially.
in your particular area, and so it's almost like you're represented, but you're not because the state can't make changes or pass laws that have anything to do with your particular area.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I like the libertarian one. The parts, give it back to Maryland.
Yeah.
Like keep
Yeah,
the parts
everything
that,
except for the federal land.
yeah, give the parts that aren't owned by the government. Give them all back. I mean, it should be pretty easy to know which ones are which.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that part better. But and then they also changed this: exercise in all cases and consent of the legislature over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state. Is that? Yep. In which the same shall be for. So this is erection of military bases, national parks, and other federal enclaves. So that's a change in wording versus forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. They limit it to military bases, national parks, and other federal enclaves. Again, just an updating of words.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
I mean, the other two, they leave
what
it
is
the same.
what are magazines and there was a couple other ones in there that
Magazines,
were
arsenals, and dockyards,
yeah.
forts, and yeah, military bases. I mean, I would even go military installations. It doesn't have to be a base, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like you want to erect, like I believe the Navy Museum is down in D.C. That's not a military base. Is it a? It could be a national park, I guess. Like, does
Yeah,
that?
I think it's probably just a federal building like the Smithsonian Park, you know. The
Yeah, but I believe the Smithsonian is run by the National Park Service
yeah, that's I think that's accurate.
and
But
other
is the
federal
Navy? I
enclaves.
don't know who the Navy Museum is run by. If it's run by the DoD or
I
or
would
the
think
Department of the Navy or
I would think it will be run by the military in some way, shape, or form,
sure.
unless it is run by the Park Service.
You got me.
Navy Museum. Oh, good gosh. National Museum of the Navy. Where's
Scroll
Washington?
up
Yeah,
to the
Washington Navy
scroll up
Yard.
to the URL. Yeah, yeah, it is run. It's run by the Navy because look, it's the site is on the Navy website.
Yeah, it is. History, Navy, military. Yeah, this is an official U.S. Navy website. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that you know, do you have to list those particular things out, or can you just make it? You know, what are
Federal.
the original ones? Other needful buildings.
Yeah,
I mean, do you need to list
or
what
maybe like
buildings they can
needful
or cannot?
federal buildings.
Yeah, federal enclaves. You know, I mean, does that cover
That's a
everything?
cool word though. I mean enclaves.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fun.
Let's. We got to keep cool words in here.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know that
fucking lawyers.
that's. I don't know that that's needed, but let's put this here. No,
You spelled encompassing wrong.
I
There
didn't.
you go.
It's spelled right. What are you talking about? The S key just didn't hit twice. You know, come on now. Um, okay. So moving on to make laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. So, I mean, this is sort of like a catch-all, right?
Well, it's literally called the necessary and proper clause. Like and it gets used all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
And I would almost say to a certain extent it sometimes gets abused,
because nothing ever does, right?
right?
Um,
I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I'm
oh yeah.
I'm wondering, you know.
So in the conservative constitution, and even the ones that were skipped here, I believe that a lot of these are amendments
Hmm.
to an extent.
Yeah, like they put in freedom of religion in there, I believe. I saw that somewhere. That might be in section 11 or section
Okay.
10.
Yeah. Well, this is due process. That one's a due process. Extradition of any person charged with state crime to pass criminal laws when necessary, proper, carrying out the national powers specifically enumerated in the constitutions or in the constitutions shall narrow. Yeah. And then this one, to purchase, dispose of, and regulate the use of property belonging to the United States, to exercise the power of eminent domain when necessary and proper for carrying the national power specifically enumerated in this Constitution, subject to the requirement of paying just compensation to acquire territories and exercise therein general powers of. So I think that this is all stuff that has been put either in amendments of some sort.
Well, eminent domain is not in any amendment. I don't even it. I don't even. Is it a law? I'm kind of curious now.
Let's
Um,
find out. Bill of Rights is largely moved up in the new Article 1, Section 12. Prohibitions of this explicitly apply to both the United States, solving the incorporation issue for the most part. Okay, wait a second.
nope, I'm wrong. It's in the Fifth Amendment.
Fifth Amendment.
Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Yeah.
But dude, eminent domain, like that one always like gives me pause too, right? I understand it too. Like, okay, if you it for the public good, if you need to build a freeway, if you need to do this or you need to do that, like there should be something in place. It's just for me, it 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 always feels like something that gets it's something that's abused by the powerful to get what they want,
Yeah.
right? Not necessarily for public good.
Yeah. No,
And and there's nothing in the Fifth Amendment that says anything. It just says that it won't be taken for public use without just compensation. It doesn't. It doesn't. There's no caveats. There's no bounds. There's no constraints on it.
yeah. Yeah. No, I know.
But
It's and I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of fun once we get to the amendments and
yeah,
we start looking at those.
yeah,
And I think like the conservative, like I said, they and I believe they also do it with some of the other ones. They integrate the amendments
sure,
um, into their constitution, which I agree with. I mean, the amendments that we have should be integrated in some way, shape, or form into the constitution. The ones that are still enforced and um, are still legal, if you want to call them that. Ones that
yeah,
haven't been repealed. So if we're talking this last one here, to make laws necessary and proper for carrying into execution laws enacted pursuant to foregoing powers or to facilitate the execution of powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or any department or officer thereof. I think that that's the same. I don't think that's changed in the conservative.
and I don't know that you necessarily want to change it.
Oh, this is interesting. So the libertarian's a little different. To make incidental laws.
Well, that's an interesting use of the word.
To make all laws which shall be necessary and proper, versus the libertarian to make incidental laws which shall be necessary and proper. I mean, Maybe I don't understand what incidental means. To accompanying but not a major part of something, liable to happen as a consequence of. I mean, I guess rather than say to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper versus to make incidental laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into the execution of the foregoing powers. What do the progressives have? Oh, what do you know? Doesn't.
Doesn't change
Oh,
anything.
they okay. The progressives added something here too. To make all laws and create and organize any agencies. To make all laws and create and organize any agencies, whether or not subject to the president's control, which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution.
Or in any department officer there or department or officer thereof.
Which is in the original one. This is
It
the
is.
change right here. Create and organize any agencies, whether or not subject to the president's control. So that like all of your executive departments.
Yep. Yeah. Basically, any federal bureaucracy.
Correct.
But I mean, they've done that already. They're just enumerating it at this point. Uh,
Correct.
but the idea of enumerating it and making it basically, you're almost making
Because
it okay.
isn't well, no. What I'm wondering is, let's see. Here it is. Moreover, with the complexity of issues facing our nation and the need for expertise, there must be no question that Congress has the power to establish independent agencies, which may or may not be subject to executive branch control. And because Congress should be empowered to delegate
Partially.
partially to the executive branch, this draft permits Congress to implement a legislative veto. Okay. And there's other stuff in there. I mean because right now if you're if you're looking at Congress makes the laws, the executive branch enacts those laws, creates the agencies to whatever those laws. Congress doesn't have the ability. Congress has the oversight, quote unquote, but doesn't have the ability to make those agencies and or departments. Congress has no technically in the Constitution, Congress has
Right.
no authority to create any quote unquote agencies or whatever. They can make laws stating what those agencies have the power to do or what they're granting them, and then it's supposed to be the executive branch
That interprets it,
that
and then
enacts those laws, that
yeah, and then
enforces or
executes
executes.
based on that.
Yeah, like just like you have, the oversight committees. You have a bunch of different the financial committee. I don't think it's called the financial committee, but you have all those committees that
Ways
you
and
have.
means.
Do what?
I think ways and means is
Ways and
probably
means. There you go.
yeah.
Um, but you have all of those quote unquote committees, but there's no official agency because the committees are Congress people.
Yeah.
If the Congress makes a law saying, hey, we need an agency to do this, Congress can't organize and do whatever with that agency. That quote unquote goes to the executive branch.
Yeah. So I guess in a sense, does it give more power back to Congress at that point? I mean,
Well,
as far as oversight with the agencies, because I don't disagree with the idea that this world has become so complex that and that there's so much going on, and that like on a day-to-day basis that the federal government doesn't need agencies to manage things on a day-to-day basis. The problem I have with some of those agencies, or maybe a lot of them, is that they have become a law unto themselves.
Sure.
Um, they write their own laws. They write their own this code or that code without any oversight, um, without any checks and balances on their power.
Or you just have somebody that writes an executive order
Sure.
which tells the agency what to do.
Yeah. And I I don't like the idea of instantiating that in the Constitution, which I don't think this is what this is doing. But like when we first read it, it kind of felt icky to me, you know, like
Yeah. No, I
and
get it. I get it. Um, let's
so
see. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, they don't go into more detail about that. You know, the funny thing is the Libertarian Constitution did the best job. They did the best job. They literally went section by section and made a list of all the changes they
said
made.
what
The
the
only
changes.
ones. They're
Yeah.
the only ones that did that. Everybody else, like they made sections about, oh well, doing, you know, this, and we added these about these parts. They didn't say what they actually changed in
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, they
like,
didn't the other two didn't make it very relational where you could easily
correct.
say, okay, hey, that yeah.
This is what was changed. This is what we added. This is what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to something to go into the document and be like, okay, hey, uh
What did you change
this
here?
explanation relates to
Why?
this.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, that's a tough one. I to an extent. Where is it? Right here. I I think this. I think that this is. There's nowhere else in the Constitution does it say that Congress has the ability to create and organize any entities within the government.
Right.
Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that. They have the ability to create laws. They have the ability to create the framework by which the executive branch carries out those laws.
Right.
And I think,
If you look at it from the perspective of separation of powers,
yeah,
this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Um,
to an extent. Now, but again, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that Congress has the ability to have oversight. I don't believe. I think we went through that. Oh, okay. So wait a second. Where was it? No. There was something that they had the ability to. If the legislative process, something about being, yeah. There's a journal. Where is it? Rights and disabilities of members. Where is it? There was a part in here that I remember that they're using to essentially create the reason they have the House Oversight Committee, right?
hmm,
The reason that they have those committees is there's one part in the Constitution that allows them to do that. And I don't remember where it is.
Well, there's definitely something in there that says that they can create committees. So, I mean, why
No,
wouldn't they
there
be
no
able to
there
create
isn't.
it?
There's
Oh,
nothing
there is.
about creating committees. It's it's about it's something about oh man, where is it? There's something about they have the ability to ask da-da-da-da-da-da. But in all cases votes shall be determined by the yeas and nays. Bills should be entered on the journal of each house. Yes. Yes, this is yeah, I could have swore that there was something somewhere to establish rule and to coin money to provide punishment for counterfeiting, constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Da, da, da. I could be there's nothing that gives them what man, I'm gonna have to look it up because it's something about them having for them to get updates or um,
So let's assume we don't find this. Like, what were you trying to?
clause 18.
Where were you trying to get? Ah,
Oh, they
never mind.
use they use the there you go. Implied constitutional power. Congress can investigate and get information to pass laws necessary and proper. This clause allows them to make to do checks and balances. Oversight is the main part of separating, letting Congress watch how the executive branch follows the laws. Each part of Congress creates committees and gives them the power to investigate through its own rules. Um, yeah, see that this is. I think that this is the big. It's an implied power. There's nothing that specifically says that they have the ability to do investigations or have oversight. They kind of use some of the wording to say, hey, we in order for us to be able to do this, we have to be able to see how it's being carried out. And I think
Yeah,
that that's where the progressive one comes in and says to create and organize agencies, whether it's subject to the president's control or not, doesn't matter. If they need to create those agencies to carry out um, things within the Constitution, then they should be able to create those because there's no explicit instruction saying that they can create committees to do that. Now, this is the funny part. This is the funny part. They can create a law and pass it that allows them to do that. Because they have the ability to create the laws, which is really funny. They can create a law that says, "Hey, we have the right to do this." I don't know if it would need to be an amendment or not, but
mm. It'd be like Inception. Law by Inception.
yeah, we're going to create a law saying that we can do what we
Create
want.
create these laws.
Yeah. So I don't know about that because again, it's one of those things. Congress is supposed to create the laws, and then the executive branch is supposed to carry out those laws.
Yeah, but the idea that well, because it was even saying that the legislature can somehow, based on the way this is written, the legislator, the legislative branch can somehow veto the, these agencies. At least that's
Well,
kind of what I was reading.
okay, so Congress makes the laws. Here are the laws. Enact these laws. Okay, well, okay, you worded this so we can do this. No, 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 no. We didn't want you to do that. Well, shit, nope, too bad. Well, you passed the law, so pass another
Yeah,
law. Until then, I'm going to follow the one you passed.
yeah,
Well, wait a second, you're interpreting it wrong. Hey, let's go to the Supreme Court.
when you explain it like that, it all just feels like such a mess. Like that. I mean, that's really my takeaway from that. But the thing is that you're not wrong, and that's probably the if you boil it down, that's the conversation that's being had sometimes. Um,
Being at the
and it's
conversation
really
all the
like,
time.
yeah, rather than intent, rather than, hey, what are we actually trying to accomplish here? Like, what are we trying to do, and how is it helping the people of the United States?
Correct.
Rather
And
than having that conversation,
yep, no.
yeah,
It's
no,
about whether or not I can do it based on the laws and the wording of the laws that you have passed, whether or not
yeah,
I have the ability to execute this law in the manner that I see fit, not as the
yeah,
way that you intended it to be, the way I want it to be.
yeah. And I'm gonna do what I want to do
Yep.
until somebody stops me.
Until somebody makes a new law that says that I can't.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. By the way, have fun trying to do that over the next, year, 2 years, 3 years. One, you don't have enough people in order to change the law that we got passed. So screw you. And oh,
yeah.
by the way, I've stacked the courts, and they all side with me. So tough. Have fun with
Good
that.
luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound familiar at all, right?
No. Yeah, we never have that happen ever.
So that would be one of those things. Do you make a committee? Do you give Congress the ability to make a committee that makes see that? And this is where this is from a constitutional perspective. The Constitution is constantly under interpretation, right? I mean,
Right.
hold on.
A living document.
In the Constitution, where we're reading here, what does it have at the bottom of each section? Oh, interpretations.
Hmm.
Common interpretation. And that's one of those things that we have to look at. It's how it's being interpreted, and like you said about the progressive side, them not changing much, well, they're kind of leaving it open ended, whereas the conservative side is putting up all kinds of guardrails. The libertarian is like, hey, we're going to give you guardrails just so you leave us alone. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's one of those, how do you navigate in that area to try to get the best outcome for the people.
Yeah. Eh. To me, this just it always keeps going back to like the people that we're putting in power, and
The
the
best
people
people.
that we're giving this power away to, that you want to hope that they're the best of us, and that they'll do what's right,
And there's
that and
no
like what's
sinister
good for the
involvement.
people.
And there's no
Yeah.
sinister involvement from anybody
Yeah.
anywhere.
And it's just not possible to.
Is it?
I mean,
Is it not possible?
I well, I mean, I would like to think that it is, but it would be a complete change in societal mindset, and how people go about their day, and live their lives in general. Like, and not like, hey, what's in it for me, but what's the best path forward for as many of us as possible. The greatest good for the greatest number of people. But people don't think like that.
The greatest good for the greatest number of people.
What are you looking at? Like, what, you don't like that?
The greatest good for the greatest number of people. So we can enact this legislation. We have what 300 and some odd million people in here.
Sure.
This is going to benefit 200 million Americans. Those other 130 million Americans, the greatest good for the greater amount, 200 million, So we'll
Yeah.
we'll do that, and we'll screw the other 100 and some odd million
I mean, like I suppose
at this
there's
point.
that. Yeah, and there's that possibility, and if you want to interpret it that way, like, but just because it's the greatest good for 200 million people doesn't mean that it's a net negative for the other 130 million necessarily.
You're
I'm not
right.
saying that it can't
You're right.
be, but
I mean,
um,
you would take a look at it. I mean, the greatest good for the greatest number of people, putting everybody on national health care, getting a national health care to where people can go. They don't have to worry about their health care being tied to jobs, and they can get health care wherever. That would be for the greatest good of literally all the people.
yeah,
Well,
well, you can go to an exchange and pay $3,500 a month for your health care. That's not tied to a job, right? That's great news, isn't it?
I heard that there was a new healthcare proposal that would benefit people instead of all of trying to replace the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, with instead of all those regulations and everything, we just give every American $2,000 a year for their health care and call it even.
Because that's how much healthcare costs in this country is $2,000 a year. The the prices haven't skyrocketed and been blown so far out of proportion, and money moving to the top
I
that
mean, that's because of the Affordable Care Act, obviously, caused that.
I don't
Okay. Anyways, we're not
I
talking
don't
about
know if
that.
that's necessarily true, but like I
I'm sure we can make an argument for it.
sure. I like, and I don't, there were definitely some unintended consequences of the ACA uh, that were that are net negatives.
Well,
But
I mean, we got to stop
um,
talking about this. I'm gonna get snarky. If we just repealed Obamacare, we wouldn't have the problems with the Affordable Care Act like we do if we just repealed Obamacare.
well, but then we'd just be back to school. Like, then we'd just be back to, oh, healthcare's tied to jobs. Like, go get a fucking job. Like,
Oh
excuse my
well. I
French.
mean, no matter what you think of it, if you don't, I mean, it is tied to a job. If you're saying you can go to
Well,
the
yeah, because
marketplace
you
and
got to
get it for
pay
thirty
for it,
five
right?
hundred dollars a month,
Yeah.
it's still tied to jobs. They didn't take that away. It's like it's they essentially gave you Cobra outside of your job.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
they
And
just
then,
extended Cobra for whenever because Cobra is obscenely unaffordable.
right. Yeah, dude. I remember when I uh when I left Sutter Health, I did the Cobra for 6 months, and I think it was like because I needed to do my jaw surgery back then, and to stay on it, I think it was like 700 or 800 bucks a month
Mm-hmm.
um
For a single
for
person.
that, yeah, for a
Yeah,
single person,
yeah.
just to stay on it for 6 months. Don't get me wrong, I got my money's worth out of it. I think the jaw surgery was like $130,000, something like that. Like, I mean, but worked out for me. But I mean, if you're just doing it just to make sure that you have healthcare coverage, that's wild.
Exactly. Exactly. No, and that's the thing about it. The unfortunate I want to say the unfortunate part about it is it's a stopgap. It's not an actual solution.
Yeah, it it was a band aid.
Correct.
Yeah. So going back to the necessary and proper clause, I it and I guess the reason we got off on a tangent and uh thinking about it is just because there's a there's a hopelessness inside of when you talk about things like this, because on one side of the coin you look at it and you say, okay, this needs to be here, this should be here because there should be something in place to where the federal government can continue to function and do the things that it needs to do. But the problem, but then on the other side of the coin, and you take it to its extreme, and then you also look at historically how this clause has been abused, and you think there like there are going to be people, and people are just going to, you know, people be people in, and they are going to do things inside of that and take advantage of a clause like this to further their own personal gain. What can I get out of this? What like how can I take advantage of this? And so it's like, and I don't necessarily know if there's something in between to where you can put guardrails around it all day and try to say, well, you can do this law, or you can't do this law, you can't do this law. Like, I mean, how does that make sense? Like, for, when you're trying to create an outline, you're not trying to create um you're not trying to create a rule set.
Correct. So
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, and then you give people the freedom to move inside of that, and then try to create the rule set based on what's going on in society on a day to or a month to month or a year to year basis.
Mhm.
But then all they what it looks like from the outside looking in is all you have is a bunch of people that are just making laws to for their own to just enrich themselves.
Correct.
Eh.
Or not just
And so
themselves.
it feels hopeless. Like that's how I, like, when I think about this stuff, that's how I feel. It feels like there's no answer, because there, in my mind, I don't, it's almost like there is no answer to the human condition. How do
Well,
we get people out of these mindsets? How do we get these people out of power? How do we how do we get people in that are looking at it from the perspective of, like, I want the best for everyone versus I just want the best for me and mine.
so and you know what's funny about that? There's a couple things that you said. Um, First, I want to touch on the initial part where you said creating the guardrails. And I know you're going to school for programming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in my experience, whenever you are talking about programming, you have to take into account the human factor. And the human factor you have to take into account, and you're going to have to forgive my candor, you have to take into account stupid people. Okay? So, really simple example. You need a user in general, to fill out an address. They put letters in the zip code, or they put numbers in the state, or they put letters in a phone number, or they don't include numbers in a street address, or they include numbers in whatever. How do you prevent them from doing that?
You have to put constraints around the data inputs. You say, hey, like, and then you have to check it all too. Like, as it goes in, you say, oh, hey, does it include this? Does it include that? Does, like, is this missing? Are, like, in the case of a zip code specifically, like, I'm only accepting integers,
Unless,
and if it's
unless,
more than 5 digits, then I throw an error.
yeah, or if they're out, if you have to take all of the, because there are zip codes, I believe, that have letters in different countries.
Sure. But if we were talking like, at that point you say, okay, well, what country are you from? And then you click on United States, and then it fill in the zip code, and then it's 5 digits only. Or if it's if it's the UK, you'd have a specific data set that you'd expect for that.
So you would have to require them to fill out the country first or state first.
Yeah, I'd say country first.
Country
I
first. So
mean,
the country
just
has
off
to,
the
you have
top
to
of my
put the,
head.
but this is what we're, this is the mentality that you have to have as a programmer, as you're looking at things. Okay, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What information do I want first so that I can then, you're doing a flow chart essentially. You're starting at the beginning here. Okay, what information am I trying to achieve? Well, I'm trying to achieve an address. Okay, well, what is the, and I'll give you another example here in a minute, but what is the largest thing that you start with? That's the country, right? Well, what country are
Mhm.
you in? And then that's going to give us, okay, well, different countries have different whatever, and we can, then you have to programs like, okay, well, what is a valid address for that country, whether it's zip code or county or whatever other subsections you're going to break down. You notice how in a lot of times whenever you list countries, depending on what website you're going to, sometimes they'll have United States at the top, and then
Right.
other times they'll have it down in the U's where United States of America belongs, right?
Hmm.
Depending on where a majority of your traffic is coming from. This is the same concept, right?
Yeah.
So
Or who knows what they're doing? They could be doing geofencing too. Like
so you're adding another piece of programming data to put in there of, okay, well, where is this person coming from?
right.
So do we automatically try to autofill where this is? And this is really funny because we did this in I helped I worked for a company that we did deployments of new computers, and based on where they were, they would get different, they would have access to different things, and or it would set the computers, and I know I'm going to, most people aren't going to understand this, but it would automatically join the domain and put the computer in the proper OU based on the IP address that it was given. Hey, your IP address is this. Is this the site that you are located at?
Yeah.
And we had to
And by
program that
OU, he means
functionality.
organizational unit. Just so we're
Yeah,
not throwing out acronyms that people don't understand.
yeah, or organizational unit within Active Directory that then gives them permission to access certain things within their organization. Da, 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 da. IT people hopefully will understand a lot of that. But what we did on when a new computer was being delivered, we actually had to create the programming logic based on, okay, well, we have to pull the IP address. Okay, well, how do we pull the IP address? How do we get that information? Okay, well, then we had to attach the IP addresses to the different site codes, all of those different things. And from a programming standpoint, those are the types of things that you do to make it easier for people to follow the follow the path you want them to take. And that's kind of where
Yeah.
I'm bringing this all back. So in
You're
the Constitution, like you said, we
mhm.
want to do what is best for the good of the most, for the good of the majority, or the good of the most people, which I
Let's just
don't
call it the good of the people.
necessarily do. What?
Well, I would say just the general good of the people. Like I
Good of
mean,
the
at
people.
this point, that because we start talking about most or whatever,
Exactly.
then you get into the idea of okay, well, if I do this for these people, am I screwing these people over here? And
Exactly.
I don't think we need to have that argument.
And I agree, and that's one of the things that, hey, it should be what is going to benefit the people as a whole. What type of legislation can we enact that, as the Constitution says, is for the people, not
Yeah,
for the person, not for this person, that person, but for the people overall. What is going to move the people forward? And I think that has been lost over many, many years, 200 and some years of work that people have done. It's all now, hey, this is what I want. Give me this, and then I'll give you whatever. And it's
I'll
almost
give you the scraps that
transactional
are
to the
left over.
standpoint for certain
Is what it
people,
feels. Yeah.
and that's
Um.
unfortunate.
Yeah, and what you were kind of talking about is something I'm learning uh in my algorithms class right now. They call it graph theory, and it's the idea that and also they sometimes they call it spanning tree, like on the math side of things,
Yeah.
where you you can start at any given point, like and you have all these points, and then you got lines, specific lines drawn to each different points, and some points have lines to each other, some don't. But the idea being is that, okay, well, I start, like in your case, you start at a decision point and you say, okay, well, I can pick this decision and this decision, or this decision, and then those would usually have a weight assigned to them,
Yeah.
and then you usually pick the one with the lowest weight, and then you go to the next one, and then that's how spanning tree graphs work, for the most part. And the theory being is, and that's kind of how computers work, and uh, where you're talking about where, and then they move in and out of that graph to make those decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't.
And you apply that to a constitution for a form of government that is confined to doing what is best for the overall populace.
It's an interesting idea. I
I mean, how would you even approach that? How could you? What is that starting block? Like, hey, we're starting with the country because that's
I
going to be able to give us the best.
you'd start with multiple points, like, and there, I can't even imagine how many there would be, because you, like, okay, do you talk about healthcare? Do you talk, do you um like immigration? Do you jobs?
Well, you'd have to have a
Hey,
starting place for all of them, and that is, quote unquote, the Constitution. The
sure.
Constitution is the starting point for our form of government, sort of the base framework for them to create these rules or these laws based on our Constitution and what is, quote unquote, allowed or right in the Constitution. When the original Constitution was made and it was ratified by a bunch of states, there we did not have the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights did not exist. It was a promise that it would be created, and some states did not sign on to the Constitution until that Bill of Rights was created and added to it. Then they ratified it.
Right. Yeah. The argument was that all of that stuff was implied in the Constitution by
Yep.
one side, and
Yep.
then the other side wanted it specifically enumerated, which, thank God for them, because I
Well,
have no idea where we'd be right now,
well,
without.
and that's the thing about it. Okay, so we created that Bill of Rights, or the first 10 amendments. Um, we take and we encode that, we put that into the new Constitution, and we make sure that those are enshrined in the original document. And that is obviously something that we want to do. But we need to, now what we're looking at from this perspective is, okay, well, what about the stuff that's already there? Is there a way for us to better enumerate what the ability of the national government is to be or should be, and what powers do we want to give, like, based on our experience, based on what we've seen, based on how things have gone. um, how do we make sure that people stay in their lane, or how do we make sure that people are focusing on what they're supposed to be doing, and, like you've said, doing what is best for the people versus, well, let me get into power so that I can do what's best for me and or my close friends or family or whatever. How do you keep that? And it's, I mean, you could take insider trading, for example. I mean, it happens. Everybody knows it happens. It's blatant across the board that it's happening, yet nothing is being done because the people that are doing it are in power.
Yeah.
So So how do you take, if you have people that are that are making the laws, people that are enforcing or executing those laws that these other people have made, how do you hold them accountable for doing what is best for the people? And a lot of people would say, well, that's our Second Amendment. That is, that was given in the Declaration of Independence. But
Sure.
whenever you become complacent enough, whenever, oh, well, my day involves me going to work, making a paycheck, coming home, eating dinner, playing with my kids, going out, having a drink with my friends, and until that changes, I don't care what happens, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't care
Or
what's
like,
happening on the other side of the country.
or I when I'm not working, I'm doom scrolling on my phone on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it
Yeah,
ends up being, and that provides me enough dopamine to get me through the day.
exactly. And I go to work and I do what I need at work. I complain about my boss. I complain about the customers. And then I come home and, you know, I rot in
Yeah.
bed, as they call it nowadays.
Yeah.
How do you make it to where people don't become complacent, or they don't have, I mean, you just look at you look at the voting that's going on in the country, to where you have, 40+% that don't vote.
Yeah.
I mean, that don't
Because it
participate. Period. I mean, that's just registered voters. I think it's somewhere around between 30 and 50, 30 and 40 or something like that percent of registered voters don't vote. That's registered voters. That's not voting eligible. It's even
Yeah.
higher. I want to say it's somewhere around 50% of voting eligible don't vote.
Yeah.
So how do you take 100 million people that don't vote? How do you get them engaged in something that, well, they don't care. I don't have time. I got to go to work. If I don't go to work, I'm going to get fired. Then I'm not going to be able to put food on my table. I can't go say, I can't go do something during the week to show that I disapprove of what's going on, because I'm going to get fired and I'm not going to be able to eat. So what you have is, you have essentially a disengaged populace that has no real, they have no real attachment to what the government is doing, until it becomes deeply personal to them.
Yeah.
As in it's in their face, on their front door. Like you have a lot of people right now, because of the tariffs, they've lost their business, or they're out of work because of all of the tariff stuff that's going on. And their businesses are like, holy crap, our costs just went up 500%. We can't afford to do this. We were only making, 10%, you know, on the work that we were doing. And now that's all gone. We can't afford to pay the tariffs to get stuff in. Then their company goes out of business, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and customers refuse to eat the cost of the tariffs, and or they go somewhere where to a larger business that can eat those costs and lower their prices. Yeah.
I mean,
And then
you
people
got the
just lose their
farmers
business.
with
Yeah.
soybeans, the soybean thing. So,
Yeah.
the question is we have this constitution. We take and we have this necessary and proper for creating laws to execute, or for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. We want to create, and I mean, we've gotten off on a tangent here about this, but the general theme is you have this document that is supposed to be the framework of for our system of government in this country, and we're essentially creating an app, or better
Well,
use,
yeah.
worse use of the
I'm
word.
wondering, can we graph theory the Constitution? Can we can we uh can we create something programmatic that actually makes it able to run the government, like, and stop some, you know, where it creates enough guardrails to where it's like, no, you okay, you can do this, but you can't do that. But I don't even know if that's the right. Uh,
because you're always going to have exceptions.
yeah,
And if you don't
special
program
case.
for those exceptions, so again,
Yeah,
you have, wait a second, you have a living document that has that there's nothing in the document about the internet. There's nothing in the document about an air force. There is nothing in the document about space. There you have this document that at that point in
I
time
believe
was
it's called
made
space
based
base.
on what those people knew to be real and true at that time. And yes, they tried to leave it open for changes and additions down the road, but did they really? This particular document. I mean, the last time we had an amendment passed, I believe, was in the late 90s, maybe 2000s, and it wasn't anything of consequence, if I'm not mistaken. I could be absolutely wrong.
I think it's been a lot longer than that, but
I think it was like the 27th or whatever it is, 27th congressional compensation.
uh
Yeah, that was the last amendment to our Constitution was about the compensation of Congress.
yep.
The right to vote at 18. I mean, there
On a
hasn't
side note,
been.
interestingly enough, it was proposed with the Bill of Rights, but it wasn't ratified until 1992.
There you go. Because the original when the original amendments came out from for the Constitution, there was no time limit put on them. Newer ones
Yeah.
do. They have time limits on them that they have to be approved in a certain time period. So that's what I'm saying. Like we make it we we as the people that don't have any quote unquote authority over this document because we're not the elected officials that do have the authority over these documents. We can, as a people, vote, whatever that means. Um, we can vote towards certain things, but you're still at the mercy of individuals. And those individuals, whatever their proclivities may be towards one thing or another, or whatever type of influence that they may be under or not under, will affect things like why would they put something into power that the person or entity that allows them to live a certain way or allows them to continue to do certain things, why would they want to do something against that person
Yeah.
unless they could get more out of them, right?
Well, yeah, and then again, you have an unengaged populace that we keep voting in the same people, and
Correct.
no, I don't think the majority of Americans really understand the process of government or what that means, or or even what the candidates that they vote for are really about, or what their track record is, even, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
So
yeah, it's just
where do you
it's
put
hard.
stuff? I mean, is that Congress? Is
I
that
I mean, I think it has to be, because I mean, that's the closest thing that we have to representation of the people. But we keep going back to this idea that Congress doesn't seem to really represent the people anymore. And then I start asking myself the question of how do we get how do we get back to that? And uh, I like the stuff that we went over about the ranked choice voting and different things to put in place, and more term limits and different things. But it's man, it's hard to wrap my brain around the idea, because it's like there's this this part of me that says, hey man, just leave it the same. It makes sense if if people are acting in good faith. But the problem is that people are not acting in good faith. So now what do you do instead?
How
And
do
I
you
don't
create the
necessarily,
how do you create
yeah,
the programming around that?
yeah.
Well, I mean, if we
And
take
I don't,
and we look at this particular section to make laws which are necessary and proper, I mean, and we have some suggestion here, to create or organize agencies that, whether or not they're in the executive branch's control, you know, make incidental laws to limit the power of the laws that are made to carrying out the execution of those, or
well,
pursuant.
and then but then it's like, who gets to decide what's an incidental law and what's not, you know?
And that's where wording matters.
Yeah. Words.
Yep. So I think I think that this is the last part of section 8. But we do need to look at a couple things, because we have the conservative constitution that added items in here, which I believe are part of the amendments. The conservative constitution enshrined a lot of I think the first 10 amendments within
Yeah.
the constitution wording. Um, and I think that that's something that we'll definitely want to do as well. Um, but I think this is extradition, and then you have, due process, criminal laws, national powers specifically enumerated, but such laws shall be narrowly construed. And then this wonderful piece here in the libertarian one. And the libertarian one is very much so individual rights, which they kind of pass up to the states, to where the the federal government shouldn't infringe on the states' rights, and the states' rights shouldn't infringe on the person rights.
Yeah.
You know, Congress shall not impose upon a state or political subdivision thereof any obligation or duty to make expenditures unless such expenditures shall be fully reimbursed by the United States. Basically saying the federal government can't require a state to pay for something unless they're going to be reimbursed by the state.
Well, and based on the language in here, the other the other thing I'm also thinking about is they can't hold the state for ransom, so to speak, and say, hey, we won't give you this money unless unless you do things exactly the way that we say.
Which is funny.
I I don't see you laughing, dude.
Because read the last sentence of that.
Yeah, so they get a portion. They get a portion of the funds as a block grant. Um, if they decline the okay, hold on a second.
Should a state decline appropriated funds with conditions on its expenditure? Hey, we're not going to accept the $10 billion for health care. An amount of the appropriation prorated by the population of that state shall be paid to the state as a block grant to be expended for the general purpose of the appropriation. So we don't want to accept the $10 billion to fund Medicaid. I think it's Medicaid, Medicare.
Yeah,
So you can give us a percentage of that based on our population, and we are able to use that for what? General purpose of the appropriation?
right. Yeah, so the broad,
For medical?
basically the yeah, something like that. Yeah, because that's what block grants are in like by general definition is that, hey, this money is for healthcare, or this money is for roads, or laying fiber for internet infrastructure, whatever it ends up being, and then the state decides how they want to use that. So rather than accepting these specific rules, which I think is like a categorical grant,
Yeah,
um,
no,
they
like
say no, we're not going to do that, but we'll take a portion of your funds
and use it how we
and
want
we'll
to
manage,
for.
yeah, and manage it how we want.
You think that's good or bad?
I think I think it could go either way, and it would depend on the state, right? How they do it, or because if they say, oh well, this is education, this is an education grant for specifically for people with these types of disabilities, and then they say, oh, okay, well, we don't want that, so we'll take 20%, and then we'll just spend it on general education. And let's say they give it to the uh, the most affluent counties or cities, for their education. And is that a good thing? I don't necessarily
Well,
think
I mean,
think so.
then you gotta look at, okay, those funds were approved by the people, quote unquote, people representation, by the according to the bill. Hey, we're going to appropriate taxpayer money because all this is all taxpayer money. It's all mine and yours, and you know, it's all our
Thought it was just
money, quote
thought it was
unquote.
just monopoly money.
Yeah, it is. It is actually monopoly money, but that's a whole other conversation. Um, so we're going to take, you know, $1 billion, and we're going to appropriate this $1 billion that this group has been calling for, for people with Parkinson's disease. You're going to get $1 billion is going to be given to, split up among the 50 states or whatever, and they have to use it towards um, accessibility and/or things for people with Parkinson's, specifically for people that have Parkinson's disease, to allow them better accessibility to whatever federal buildings, or just places, or part of a grant. State says, nope, sorry, we don't want that money. We don't want the, if we split it equitably. I don't know, what is that? You do 1 billion divided by 50, 20 million per state. We don't want your 20 million. We'll take the $1 million, and we'll use it for accessibility things, or for medical, whatever. I mean, I would imagine that there's going to be some sort of the general purpose of the appropriation for accessibility. And then the state's like, okay, or that's what we're going to do. And then it gets to the state, okay, we got $1 million for our budget for whatever we want to use it for, in accordance with what, medical care, like accessibility option, like who deems what the general purpose of that appropriation is?
The state.
The state. Well, I would imagine that the
Well, if it's the portion, then yeah, it's the state. If it's if they take the full money from the federal government, then the Fed sets the rules.
exactly, but that's what I'm saying. With this, shall be paid to the state as a block grant to be expended for the general purpose of the appropriation. The general purpose. How do you get to
Right.
it? So medical. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take, that's going to be $1 million in our budget for whatever medical reason we want. So you take those people that lobbied for Parkinson's disease, and they got a $1 billion grant, and the state says, no, we don't want to do that. We want to use the funds for whatever medical purpose we want. We don't want it just for Parkinson's. We're not going to accept your terms. I mean, I take and I look at that, and if you take it down to, say the state or the city says, hey, I'm going to give you, $20 million to do upgrades to our all of our federal buildings for Parkinson's. No, no, no. I'll take the $1 million for whatever medical use I want. Does that seem appropriate?
Uh, it's a good question.
And I think that that's where a lot of this comes from is you have the will of the people at the federal level of their taxpayer money, and then you're going to give the states, like, it was voted on and apportioned appropriately at the federal level, and then you're just going to say the state's going to be like, no, I don't want all of your money, but I'll take a part of it so that I can use for whatever I want.
Yeah. Well, I guess in my mind, the way I've always thought about this and the changes that should be made is that there should be no extra money collected by the federal government. Like, other than the specific things that the federal government needs to run and needs to uh, do to perform its daily tasks, there should be no there shouldn't be random grants being sent to the state. The state should, like, the money should funnel up. It shouldn't, and it should funnel up to the smallest, from the city to the county to the state, and then to the federal government. Like, it shouldn't be, oh hey, the federal government takes, I don't, at least in my mind, it shouldn't be that the federal government takes all the money and then funnels it back down to the lower levels. That's my thought process. And I know
But
that's not
it's
what happens today.
that's that's trickle down economics. Isn't that how it works? You give all your
I'm,
money to the people at the top, and then they give you what you deserve.
right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's worked really well for us over the last 45 years.
I mean, we're sitting here doing a podcast about the Constitution.
Well, I guess in the case of you and me, I suppose it has worked out well enough. I like
This is first world problems. You know how upset my daughter gets whenever I take her phone away because she did something she wasn't supposed to do.
I could imagine.
I
I
mean, you
I
you gotta.
feel like you should. I feel like you should get some video of that though, and
I,
post
I
it
mean,
on.
you gotta think about context here. I mean, some people don't get food and they have to,
Sure.
survive without, and some people don't get phones and they have to survive without, and then some people make podcasts and stream about whether or not words matter. But but okay, so for what you were saying,
Hmm.
we're going to do trickle up economics here real quick.
Okay.
So you're saying at the local level should collect all of the taxes,
Um,
and then it should be paid up.
in theory, yes.
You give me an example, just big picture example, other than, yeah, you pay money here and then it goes up. I just need a little bit more because you said
Yeah.
local and then, you know what, I'm guessing you do town, city, whatever, and then county,
Yeah.
then state, then
Then federal.
federal. Okay, well, how
Yeah.
how does that work? Because so income taxes go to your local first. Income
Yeah.
income taxes
Yeah.
are collected by the
Income
city.
taxes get collected locally,
Okay.
and then you know the and they tax based on the budget, of locally elected officials that decide that. You keep that at the lowest possible level, and then there is some kind of understanding or agreement at at each next level of like, okay, this is how much I need to pay the county for the county to provide their services, plus what they need to pay the state, and then so on and so forth. Um, where it's basically agreed upon, or maybe there's some kind of where it's where it may be based on population, but that doesn't necessarily work because you know some areas are going to make a lot more, have a lot more taxable income than others. There's a lot of ins and outs to it, and it would be a huge change. I just feel like it would shift the power mechanism to where if the local government has all the money, then the county has to negotiate with the city in order to get what it needs to run on a daily basis.
You're
Uh,
going hard libertarian here.
from the financial sense, yes. Um,
I'm not disagreeing with you on
yeah,
what this is.
but
I mean, it's
well,
just a
but here,
go
yeah,
ahead.
and I've always looked at this big picture. I haven't really thought about the ins and outs of how the money would get funneled up. But I mean, even 200 years ago when they were doing this, like
They collected
it
taxes
was
at the
collected,
local
taxes
level.
were collected by the state, and then
Yep, they
they
by the
negotiated
sheriff
with,
of
yeah,
Nottingham.
then they negotiated with the federal government of like, okay, well, how much,
How much can you
how,
pay?
yeah, how much how much the state
So
pays.
so the sheriff of Nottingham goes around and collects the money and takes it back
Sure.
to King Charles, right? The lion,
Right.
right?
Sure.
And then he has the money there and he does all that and then he makes everybody live poor because the sheriff of Nottingham's going around collecting all the money and then
Yeah.
King Charles
Yeah.
does what he
Sure.
wants with it.
If you want a worst case scenario, yeah,
And
like
then
I
the
would
maid
hope that,
Marian, the fox, falls in love with the other fox who is an
right.
archer, right?
Are you doing the Disney version? Is that what's going on here?
I mean, is there any other version? I mean, we could go. What is it? Carrie, you'll use. We could do
Gray
Men in
Elves.
Tights if you want to do
Yeah.
the
Yeah, we could do Men in Tights.
do Men in
You know,
Tights.
the Kevin Costner version's pretty good. I like that one.
Oh no, man! You got it's either the Disney one or it's Men in Tights. I can't
Oh,
abide by. I
all right.
mean, the Kevin Costner one is okay, but no, it's
Hey,
you
different strokes for different folks.
you either got
My
Disney or you got Men in Tights.
my big sister loved the Kevin Costner one
Really?
back in the night. Oh yeah, she used to watch that. She probably watched it like once a week.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
impressive. She obviously never saw the Men in Tights one, or that would have been her favorite one.
Yeah, more than likely. I don't know. Although I don't know if she really has that much of a sense of humor. Now that I'm thinking
Oh,
about it,
ouch, man, that's recorded.
I'm
You
I'm
better be careful
kidding.
there, bud.
Hopefully she's not. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this one. Yeah, I'm gonna
I'll
be in
send it to
trouble
her.
for
What's her
that.
email?
Yeah,
Let's-
yeah. I'll send it to you offline.
no, I think I understand what you're saying. The unfortunate part is the my biggest concern is we have corruption we have corruption all the way up at the top, right?
Sure.
And the ability to have that corruption locally, I think, is even greater. If that makes any sense, if you have that many people that are in charge of collecting those monies
Yeah.
and then making sure that that stuff is taken care of, I wonder. And obviously, and just recently, not. I mean, you find this, you find the stuff all the time. You go look at just pretty much any town or city or whatever. Somebody's embezzling something. Somebody's using
Oh yeah.
misappropriation of funds. Somebody's doing whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they just had it here in close to me, the town of Cary. The what was it? The town manager or the finance, whatever, was found doing things that he shouldn't have been doing with the money. Um, but I wonder. I don't think that either way you do it, you're going to eliminate the problem of people taking advantage. I don't think that this is a proper way to avoid that, to take care of that problem. People doing the wrong thing. Um, because you're going to have it either way. The people's going to people, as I like to say, and like you said, it has to be a mentality shift of and this brings me back to what you said before, my second piece about what you were talking about, but um, you're always going to have those people that want more, whether it's want more power, want more influence, want more money, want
They
more
want more of
whatever.
something.
You're always going to have that.
Yeah.
Y-
They're trying to fill a bottomless hole somewhere
Correct.
in their
Correct.
soul somewhere. Yeah.
100%. And even from the perspective, and this was the other correlation I want to go. You take a look at, you have scarcity right now, right? Scarcity rules. People don't have things. You don't have the ability. People don't have the ability to get food, get clothing, get whatever. You have that. Even if you look at a post-scarcity society, something akin to Star Trek, right?
Hmm.
Star Trek is not without faults from a perspective of people trying to get in power, do the wrong thing, take advantage of. Like, you're still going to have that. That's not going to go away. People are still going to people. You just try to do, you try to figure out how to keep those particular people from getting into a place of power to where they have that much influence. And I don't know that we're going to be able to prevent that. I don't know that there's a way to keep that from happening.
Yeah. Oh
No
no,
matter
I,
what
I I think it's the crux of the of
humans,
almost all the problems that we circle around to. And we always come back to it. It's always the unknown, the variable that you can't solve for.
well, and that's where we put in, the term limits for everybody, rather
Yeah.
than having, Supreme Court people that are in the Supreme Court for 20, 30, 40 years or however long it is. No, term limits. Like, get
Yeah.
them in, get them out. They should be replaced. Like, there's no reason in our society today when we have, I don't remember whose law it is, but to where our capabilities double every so often. Things are moving faster. If we want to be agents of change and change for the better, you can't be stuck like, oh, we need to be slow. We need to be careful about what we're doing. We need to be, yeah, but doing that has gotten us in the current situation that we're in.
Yeah.
To where you slowly take over certain things, you slowly put people into power, you game, you do the long game, right? Slowly, piece by piece by piece, very carefully, you make these changes and make slowly condition people.
Yeah. Well, well, it's almost like our rate of societal change and the way the world changes, it seems to be growing exponentially. And we're trying to change government linearly.
Correct.
And that's it, obviously linear growth is never going to keep up with exponential growth. And and maybe that's how we've landed where we are now, is that we didn't account for the rate of change.
I mean, you got to look at it. The rate of change back then
Right.
wasn't
It probably
crazy.
was linear.
Yeah.
It or even less. Could have been log of n,
I
instead of
mean,
n.
I mean, how long did it take you to get across the ocean?
Right.
N-
Weeks.
Now it takes hours.
Right.
So, I mean, if we're talking about the difference from that perspective, like I said, there's nothing in the Constitution about Air Force or space or internet or anything of that nature, cyber. There's nothing in there about that. You know, would a more current constitution have something about that?
I mean, if it, yeah, for as far as regulation, I mean, if
Well,
there was
not
a
even
reason to
regulation, just
regulate,
in general. They don't. The Constitution doesn't regulate the doesn't discern maritime law, does it?
sure. No, it
It
doesn't.
doesn't regulate the oceans. It doesn't regulate certain things. It just gives a framework by which to make laws off of. And it's a piece of paper saying, "Hey, we agree to run things this particular way because this is and at the time this is one of the most forward-thinking documents that was created, right?
Right.
Well, that was 250 years ago. You could probably have AI write a whole new constitution that would be more up to date and take advantage of the new, our new capabilities more so than the one that we have.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Going back to the monetary collection thing, I'm kind of wondering, just throwing another idea out there, where uh maybe you collect it at the federal level, but you put regulations in place where, hey, this money is, you keep the method of collection in place, but you change how the money is divvied out. Even though the federal government is collecting the money, it's not just theirs. To where you change it and you say, okay, well, this account is for, this apportionment goes to this city, this apportionment goes to that city, whatever. And you could figure that out programmatically, I feel like. And then and then move that, and then do that for county and state as well in between, and where it's all decided upon, like um pre-apportioned. Just an idea, but I like the idea of, because when I think about it, money at the end of the day is not necessarily an equality to power, but I think it's close. And so if you keep, where we're in this situation where every city doesn't really have many methods of collecting revenue, and the cities at the end of the day are where the people live, and it's where they thrive, or where they fall face down. And and so if we focus the money and the power back there, to make those places, to hopefully make those places thrive, better schools, better places to work, better places to play, um, and, and that kind of stuff, to where they're not having to go and beg the federal government for $1 million for this or that, and then they can decide how they want to spend the money, how it's best spent for that specific group of people. I just think I think that's a lot better method of what we're doing now. Because I think in California, the only way that cities can collect revenue at this point is either asking the state, or asking the Fed for money, or they can do sales tax, and people hate sales tax. Like, and every
Well,
time that,
property tax.
yeah, but that's the county, at least in California. Um,
No, that's the county. I mean, yeah, no,
yeah,
you're not wrong. County sale it usually is property taxes through the county. You're right.
yeah,
Unless it's an incorporated city, you can.
sure.
Um, I think you pay city taxes depending on the state constitution. But I believe that the city can also collect property taxes. Again, depending on the state, depending on the
But why?
cities, whatever.
Why? Yeah, and so I guess I'd ask the question is why should the federal government get to decide what to do with all the income tax? I live in that city. I live in that county.
The
Like,
cities have the ability to collect income tax too.
yeah, but none of them do it. At least not in California.
No, there are some cities that let's find out here.
What? I'm just saying there's enough income taxes being collected at this point. I feel like that
Yeah.
it should just be divvied out that way, and no, and it shouldn't be Congress deciding, or the Department of Education, or pick a three-letter agency that's deciding how to divvy out the money.
I
Problems should be solved at the lowest possible level.
I agree with you to an extent, yes, because that's
All
where you
right.
solve most of the problems. You solve
Right.
most of the problems locally, not nationally.
Yeah.
The national
And
problems,
problems are going to be different from city to city,
correct,
county to county,
correct.
and every geographical landscape is going to have its own, and not just geographic, but every demographic is going to have their own different set of problems, and they
Yep.
and they should have the money and the power to be able to solve those at that level, not wondering like, okay, well, can I get this money if I, tell the government that I'm gonna, sacrifice these three goats, or whatever stipulations they put on it.
Oh yeah. No, I mean there's many ways that states, and that was something we talked about before, I believe, the where the tax collections can happen, whether it's property tax or sales tax, or like I know state tax on gas is another thing. Um, there's many ways to
Oh yeah, I
that
guess that's true. Yeah, the
state.
state taxes gas. California does. I think California. I think it's like 50 cents on a gallon.
Yeah, and you also have on certain commodities, your sales tax, whatever. I
Yeah,
mean, you consider the gas tax would be almost like a sales tax, except it's just on gas. Some places have no sales tax on food, but they do on other commodities, clothing. Yes, no, like there's all different kinds of different things across the board, but the main one that states use income tax, and they also use property tax. Those are the two big ones that states use. But yeah, I mean, you have to file your state income taxes, right? Unless
true.
you're in Florida, or
Or Nevada,
is it Nevada? Yeah, there's a
Texas,
couple states that don't
Alaska.
collect any income tax, but
Yep.
there's a lot of states that do, and there's some cities that, and I just had it up here. There's probably 20 to 20ish cities that collect income tax as
Yeah.
well. Usually,
By
it's big
by
ones.
law by law in California, the city cannot collect income tax.
See, there you go. State constitutions, gotta love them.
Yep.
Um, and that's actually good because we're not into the powers denied states yet, but we are. If we do, we want to start on Section 9, or do we want to leave Section 9 for next one and continue down the road we're going? Or
I think yeah, I think maybe we wait. I think this is a good stopping point. We got 2 hours in.
okay,
Yeah,
all
feel
right.
good.
No, I just I don't, when we're looking at this, and we have, like, if we look at the notepad, like I have a lot of things in here, and there's a lot of stuff where you know Congress shall have the power and all of that stuff. There's a lot of things that we have changed, and we hope that the overall is going to improve over current, and really honestly, the big ones are sections 2 and 3. This elections for the House and the Senate, just like you said, term
Yeah,
limits, voting, um, like what is it, Section 4? Yeah, Section 4 is
yeah,
election information. there's a lot of we hope that getting the quote unquote best and brightest. I mean, and most jobs have some sort of requirements. We don't have any requirements for any elected office. There are no requirements for any elected official.
Yeah.
I think the only requirement they have, as far, there's no education requirement. There's no nothing like that. But you do have, hey, you can't be convicted of treason. You have to be of a certain age. You have to be a citizen for a certain amount of time, or you have to whatever. Um, but outside of that, there's no educational requirements. There's no, which is really funny because it would be easier to get an elected job than it would be a regular job, if that's.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, to give you an example, my friend, she went to high school in Malaysia, and she tried to get a job with the county sheriff, and everything was good to go until she gave him her high school diploma from her school in Malaysia, and they said, "Well, we can't accept that." And so now she lost the job, the offer, um, and now she's having to do her GED. And it's like, and even though she went to Fresno State, I think, and I think she might be like 20 or 30 units away from a bachelor's degree, and um, but she didn't have, like, for some reason she didn't have enough units to go back to like a community college and be like, hey, can you just award me an AA or something like that?
Yeah,
She couldn't do that either, and yeah, she lost the job, and
crazy.
I just floored by it.
I mean, hey, that's what's important. You passed all the tests except for the fact that that piece of paper isn't good enough for us.
Right.
You got to get us a different piece of paper.
And it, at the end of the day, when you look at people that have their high school diploma from whatever state or whatever country, like,
From
is
wherever,
it,
whatever city.
yeah, it is is no measurement of that person's ability to do their job. Let's be real about it. Uh the scale on which people might lie on that, where this is, completely incapable of doing their job, and, fully capable or overly capable. There's quite a few people over here on that side.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say that because she passed all the tests. She passed all
Right.
the requirements.
Yep.
So
She
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 was
got
offered
offered
the
the job.
she
They
just needed to
rescinded it.
provide her high school diploma.
Yeah.
So literally they offered her job. It's like, well, this is contingent on you providing your high school diploma. So that means she did all the tests, she did all the she passed the background check, she passed all of the other
Yep.
stuff except for the diploma. And they said, "Sorry, that piece of paper isn't good enough for us. You have to have a different piece of paper."
Right. Yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, and I mean, when I'm gonna switch gears, like, when we get into these subjects, like, especially like these ones where, where you're talking about the human condition, and you're talking about the way people move and the way people act, especially when they get into power, and how power corrupts, and it just it always ends up feeling so heavy, because it there it doesn't feel like there's an answer, and it almost feels like there's no way out. I mean, I'd like to believe that there is a way out, and we just haven't figured it out yet. Um, that, just like we were talking about algorithms earlier before we started the podcast, and, where we're missing some things when it comes to like AI and some more advanced technologies. It's almost like we're missing the algorithm for how do we govern ourselves and govern each other morally, to where can't we all
Okay.
just get along? Like,
Hold up.
can't we all just, yeah,
Govern each other morally according to whose morals?
sure. But and here's another thing that I would like to believe is that there is some universal truth when it comes to morality. That there are some things that we can agree upon, or that we can look at it from the perspective of, oh, hey, not what I'd want to do, but he's not, but it's not bothering me. He's not like this person isn't affecting my life in any way. So why should I care what this person is doing?
Correct. I mean, if that person's out there killing people on the street, it doesn't matter to me. He's not killing me.
Right. If they're not hurting anyone,
Oh,
not
anyone.
just
Oh, you want to talk about
anyone.
abortion?
Oh, no, I don't. Absolutely not. Not right now. Like I'm already sad enough from the last 30 minutes of our conversation, and like, where I'm losing faith in humanity in general. So let's uh let's not that open that can of worms.
You don't want that. You want to keep that. You want to keep those worms in, right? You don't want to
For
enshrine that
now.
in the
I'm
Constitution.
not saying we won't talk about it, because I'm sure we
Oh no,
will at
we're
some
gonna have
point.
to. We're gonna have to.
Yeah. But it's that's tomorrow Josh's problem.
That's tomorrow. Maybe not even tomorrow, Josh's. Maybe next
Yeah.
week's Josh's
Yeah,
problem,
down the line Josh's
or next
problem.
month's Josh's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's that. That's I would say is one of the biggest things that we have to look at from a national perspective is you have a multitude of people with different morals, different viewpoints, different everything, and trying to keep the the federal government or the national government or however you want to say it to keep them out of those moral quandaries,
Yeah.
because it's not the federal government's job to create morality. It's not their job.
Yeah. I don't think it's any government's job to create
No,
morality.
no, it's
Uh,
not. It 100%. It is not the job of the government to create morality. I do not believe that is the case. If you want to believe in a religion, that's the whole point of the separation of church and state. The founding people were very, very together on this as far as keeping the government out of religion,
yeah.
allowing freedom of religion, allowing people to practice whatever they want to practice. People get a lot of their morals from their religion. So let them get them from their religion. Now, when those morals start to infringe on other people's ideas and morals, that is when you have to unfortunately look at, okay, well, what can the state do to protect both of those people?
Yeah.
Because it is not the job of the state to determine which of those morals is right. It is the job of the state to protect both of those people from each other and allow
Yeah.
both of those people to practice and or whatever their morals, as long as they don't infringe on other people's rights. And
Yeah.
that is a big thing from a libertarian perspective, that each individual has the right to do whatever it is that they want to do, as long as it doesn't infringe on somebody else's rights. And that is where you get a lot of conflict, especially, and I'm going to bring it up here again. We're not going to talk about it though, from the perspective of abortion. When does the quote unquote fetus attain rights?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great example for sure.
So,
Um,
and then you go into the libertarian thing of, okay, well, if somebody's polluting upstream and that stream comes through your land, and now you have, polluted water on your land, it's not your fault. It is somebody else infringing upon your rights to clean and fresh water.
yeah. The pursuit of happiness, basically.
Yeah. So those are a lot of things, and I'm very much so of the belief that the government has no say whatsoever in an individual's rights to themselves. That's to themselves.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I don't, as far as how far that goes, I don't think the government has any place in to do that. Again, you go down to
No,
the
not on
local.
not on how people should govern themselves. No.
Correct. No, not at all. If you're, and this goes back to your community, your local, you solve problems on a local level, because that's usually where those problems are. They're usually not on a larger
Yeah.
scale level. You're going
Yeah.
to have communities. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the idea that 330 million people are going to have the exact same problem that one government can solve.
It,
Like the idea of that is absolutely asinine to me.
yes.
Like there's the mathematical improbability of that actually happening is astronomical. Like I don't even know if we have a number to calculate something, like a name for that number. Of
Well, I
the
mean,
gravity of it.
we could pose that to they did the math on Reddit.
I guess we could.
Propose that question to them. No, I think that just for an example, you have Jewish communities in New York, in their communities or their city, that have different problems than Amish communities in Pennsylvania, or
Right.
communities out in Alabama versus somebody in the desert in Utah, or somebody that lives in Montana on a range, or people that live in Florida at the beach. They're all going to have different problems. They're all going to have different issues that they may or may not want to acknowledge. But those communities are all going to have different needs, different wants, and different uses for their quote unquote governments or their communities. So you're absolutely right. Somebody that lives in next to the Central Park in New York is going to have different needs than a person that lives on Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Yeah,
It's just a
absolutely.
it's just a question of, I mean, but what the funny thing is they both need health care.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think everybody needs health care.
Everybody needs health
So,
care and everybody needs a gun. There we go. I said it. Maybe
or a
they
tank,
can.
whatever. Like
No, I
I
mean,
gotta protect myself.
I don't think that people would be too happy with tanks being parked along the street near Central Park. I think that there might be some questionable things. And then also tanks lining the street of Bourbon Street. I think there's still going to be some problems with that. I think that
Yeah.
those two,
I
they're
mean,
going to have similar problems if we do tanks.
there's already a lot of cars in New York City. I mean, adding isn't there 8 million people in New York City?
I don't know.
You know,
It's crazy.
but let's even call it 4 million. 4 million tanks. I mean, where are you going to park that shit? Like that's
It
that's a
doesn't,
that's a
when you
lot of
have it,
space taken
okay. Okay. When you have a tank, doesn't matter where you park it.
up.
Just saying.
I guess not. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if you asked an army tank pilot, they'd probably say no.
I'm gonna park it I'm gonna park it like it's hot. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take
Like it's
Snoop's
hot.
advice,
Like it's hot.
and I'm gonna park it like it's hot. Wherever wherever I want to park it, that's where it's gonna be parked. No, but I mean, those are again first world problems, right?
Yeah.
Where am I gonna park my tank?
But I mean, yeah, and I say that a lot, but the first world problems thing, but it's like, but they are our problems,
Yes.
and it doesn't, just because somebody's worse off doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to make things better for everybody.
No, no, definitely. That's just the question. Do we need to worry about tank parking or feeding people that live in food deserts? Which one
Yeah.
is more important?
Right.
Obviously, tank parking.
Obviously. Yeah, we need to
Obviously,
figure
tent
that out
parking.
first.
Yes, that
Yes,
that one we really need to
which
get that one a handle
we
on that
might,
one before
but we kind of already solved it because
starting.
you park it anywhere, and like it's hot.
You're not wrong. Oh goodness. All right. I guess we're done for today. Next week we start on section 9, powers denied Congress. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
exciting stuff.
You
Looking
can't
forward
do
to
that
it.
here.
Yeah, although
Like, regulate the slave trade. Mm-mm. Nope, nope, nope. Can't do that. Sorry, Congress.
naughty, naughty.
Can't do that. Also, originally in the Constitution, just a heads up, Congress can't tax.
Hmm.
No income taxes. Original.
Well, good thing we came up for an amendment with that.
Correct. That was an amendment. Hey, everybody agreed to that one, right? It was an
Well,
amendment.
what is it? 2/3. 2/3 of us did. But then again, that was 115 years ago. I wonder if you polled, if you polled, did a U.S. poll, like how many people would agree that income tax is something that we should be doing. Be
You know,
be interested to see that one.
I'm gonna make a quick correlation, and then we're gonna end this. It's funny because I was reading an article today, and someone made the comment about the state of games that are being released today versus the state of games that were released or the type of games that were released years ago, and made an example of how there's a lot of PvP full loot MMOs that are trying to be released, and none of them are successful. Like none of them work. Like they always fail. I haven't seen a full loot PvP that has gone mainstream. Like it just doesn't happen because it's meant for hardcore people. Like it's
Yeah.
not meant for your casual gamer because you're not going to go in there and lose everything after spending time to do it. You just don't have the time for that.
Ultima Online, that's the one I remember playing that was full loot. And
Correct, and
that
it's still
and
around.
dude, I just remember just getting pissed off
Yeah.
all the time.
Well,
Like,
well, there's a funny thing about that is somebody made the comment about Eve Online,
mhm.
which is the spaceship game was released 18 plus years ago, I believe, and has done relatively okay. Ultima Online was released a long time ago and has done relatively
Yeah,
okay.
the mid 90s, I think.
Yeah, so they're saying if you tried to release one of those games today, it would fall to the same fate that these other ones are because you don't have the same, like you have a very niche group of players that like the PvP full loot, like that type of game, and to get something off the ground, to get enough people to buy into it, those other games kind of have a nostalgia to them. They kind
Yeah.
of have that, a different feel to them. But they're no WoW. They're no WoW killer. They're no, they're not going to live up to Elder Scrolls Online or any of those mainstream like MMOs that kind of top off the market, and they're never going to excel to that because of sort of the gaming landscape of today. And it's one of those things like you just said. Income tax was passed how long ago? 115 years ago. If you tried to pass that today, would you have buy-in, or would people be like, "Get the hell out of here"? Get
Right.
you go stuff that somewhere.
Yeah, and uh, sorry to keep this going a little bit longer, but
No,
it reminds me that I want to get back around to this where I actually want to research like what was the political landscape and the societal landscape that created this space where they were able to pass that amendment and everybody and got enough people on board for it. Like I'm very curious about what was going on there.
115 years ago would have put us right at the turn of the century,
Yeah.
like
So
19. There was around World War One
World
ish.
War One started in like 1913, maybe 1917, I think.
So that would put us right at like 1905, 1910, somewhere in there would put
Yeah,
us 115 years ago that it
right.
got passed.
It was 1909 is what when it was passed.
Is when it was passed. And was there war going on in the other parts of the world and we just hadn't joined? Or when did
I
World War
I
One
think
start?
I think World War One was ramping up at that point. But I don't quote me on that. I'm not 100%.
Let's see.
Yeah.
1914.
But I mean, like the precursors to it, like the political precursors were going on.
Yeah, well the who was president back then? So
I
that
don't
would
think it
have
was
been
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
That's how. Teddy.
Hmm. Oh, I'm wrong. It was ratified in 1913.
Ooh, that's Taft. No, 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 no. Sorry. Taft, that was the end of Taft into Woodrow. I can see that too. It was ratified in 13?
Yeah.
Ratified 1913. Yep.
So it was proposed in 1909, though. Didn't get
Yeah.
ratified until 1913.
So 1909 was the beginning of Taft's administration.
Hmm. Yeah, that would have been like 6 months in.
Yep. Huh. It was passed in response to, oh, there you go. It was passed by Congress in 1909 in response to the Supreme Court case of Pollock versus Farmers Loan and Trust. So it was based on a Supreme Court case.
Taxes on income from property. Oh, and they're saying the biggest problem was that tariffs were breaking the system. At least
Tariffs?
that's what chat's telling me.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because tariffs hit consumers harder than wealthy asset holders. But the problem is that like income tax doesn't fix that because most
Oh, no,
most
no, no,
people that
no.
are
Income tax did fix it back then
yes because higher there wasn't
because they were taxed.
yeah and it wasn't capital gain and there wasn't a whole lot of capital gains back then I don't think where and it was like how and it was like capital gains wasn't separated out maybe.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. So yeah, it was yeah, so it was in relation to yeah. But you have to look at it when it first came out within the when the war came out, the highest individual income tax rate was up got up to like the mid 70s. And then during the 40s to 60s, it was up in the 90%, the 80s to 90s for the highest bracket. And then it obviously went down from there. But yeah, no, it was that's interesting. It's really interesting to see the when you look at the highest tax rate versus the lowest tax rate. But yeah, no,
Well,
I
yeah.
think that's
Well, now
you know
and now the highest tax bracket for federal we're sitting at 35%.
correct. Yep. It started dropping. They dropped it big in the 60s. I want to say it was the mid to late 60s. They did a big drop from like 90% down to around 70, and then they did another drop in the late 70s, 80s down to 50, and then they did another drop. Yeah. But Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then over the next 50 years, they basically put laws into place to protect capital. And then,
Yep.
with the argument being that, oh, well, that's capital for investment, and that it's going to get reinvested in the economy.
Which it doesn't. That's fine.
Right.
Obviously, it does. Yeah, we're wrong.
Yeah.
We don't
No,
know what we're
both
talking
wrong.
about. We don't have that kind of money, anyways.
Yeah.
But all right,
All
I
right.
think this is a good place to stop. We'll stop on that
Yeah.
horrible note.
Yeah. Yeah. On a
Of
very
income.
positive note.
Yeah.
Of
Let's go back.
government
Let's go back to the slave trade clause. Let's do that one. The state slave trade clause, and it's
Yeah.
Congress is
Well, I mean,
not allowed to regulate slave trade.
that's only like one step above, 125 years of wage slaves. So, I mean, like,
Come on, man.
you come on.
But no, next week, Section 9, powers denied Congress, and that's the first clause that was obviously, obsolete now, but it's in there. It was in the Constitution, Section 9.
Yes, it was. Something to look forward to. I'm
I
excited.
mean, definitely, without
Look
a
at my
doubt.
face.
Look at that excitement. See, look at that smile. It's wonderful. All right. Well, I'm guessing it's about that time to say goodbye. So
Yeah. Gonna miss you guys.
yeah, for a whole week.
And you a little bit, Matt. Just
Oh, don't even tease on that, man. That's terrible. But no, thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate you sticking around for our wonderful off-topic conversation. We did finish Section 8 after 6 parts. 6 parts. We finished Section 8, even though there was some stuff we skipped over in the different other constitutions. Mainly those are just bringing in the amendments. But there's eventually when we get done Article 1, we're going to have to go back and look at the additions that the conservative and libertarian put in there about spending and all that. We'll have to do a review on those. But no, on to Section 9 next week. Powers denied Congress. Excited. But thanks for coming out. And as always, be kind to each other and yourselves. And
be safe. Make good choices.
There it is. Make a choice. Gotta love it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week.